you as an expert, while you're growing, you started at zero. At zero, you were able to see a few people who are at a five, and you saw them to be experts. Now, when you go to a five, you see people at a 10, and you see them to be experts. Now, when you're at a 10, you see people at 15, 15, 20, and that keeps going on. So, what happens is at every point, wherever you are, because you see people who are above you, you somewhere feel inferior, and you somewhere feel like I don't bring in enough value in comparison to a person at 15. Let's say you're at a 10, you're seeing a person at 15, you feel like I don't bring in enough value in comparison to a person at a 15. Here's what you forget. If your client is at a 5, you are a better option for your client as opposed to a 15, because you are able to relate to this person at a 5 because you just crossed that, as opposed to a 15 or a 20 or a 25, because there are people at 100 also.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Entrepreneurs Warrior Show. This is where we interview entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants who are expert in their niche. And guess what? Today we have one of the really awesome guests with us. He is co-founder of Sell It Like Swastik. He is a startup coach and a high-ticket closing expert. He helps business owners to grow their business with their using their influence, and he helped 12,000 plus businesses to grow their business. So without further ado, let's have Swastik Nandkumar on the stage. Hi Swastik.
Hey, hi, Nilesh. So nice to be here. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm super excited and grateful to have you on the show today itself. Yes.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
I hope your my voice is loud and clear to you.
Yes, your voice is clear to me. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So are we Swastik, before we actually deep dive about the concept and all of these things, I want to hear your story. Like, how did you start it? I found you in the same community. Like, I'm part of Siddharth Rajshekhar. And I found there your Hall of Fame and all. So I want to
Right.
know, yes, how did you got started in the journey?
So the journey started quite some time back. So the journey started in 2000, well before 2015, somewhere in 2015. The journey started into me trying different things, starting with me, working as an interior designer, interior decorator, and redoing houses, redoing homes, furnishing homes. So that's the space where I started. And from there, I did quite a few things, jumping from the one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, where somewhere when this did not work out, went to the next one. When that didn't work out, went to the next one. So I think from interior designing, we went to uh, home solutions. From home solutions, we went to drop shipping. Drop shipping, we went to tried so many different games, and then I took up a job, uh, and then COVID also happened. And before COVID, in fact, I quit my job before COVID in 2018 no, 2019 Jan, I think, is where I quit my job. And that's where when I did quit my job, the question again came down to what am I going to do now? And the thing is, the job that I was working in, I was a growth consultant there. So I was working as a growth consultant. And when I quit my job, for me, the natural thought was, okay, the best thing for me to do would be to do something that I've already done in the past. And the first thought that came in was, okay, maybe I should go back to interior designing. Then all the trauma of interior designing came back. So I said, okay, no interior designing. So what do we do next? Then we thought consulting, but I had no idea on how to get started as a consultant, because when I was working in my business, we had clients and we would take clients from there, from that point onward. So we didn't really have to put in the efforts of getting clients in. At least as my role in that business, it was not so much into the efforts of marketing. So my question came down to how do I get people? And then I was a musician as well. So I've been traveling as a musician too. I play the drums, I play the tabla, I play the keys, uh, and I was traveling around with that too. And there, some experience that I had with connecting with people on into getting shows and stuff. So I tried to channelize all of these things and said, okay, I want to get started into my consulting. How do I do it? Then things started opening up. First thing opened up, the next thing opened up, and then that's how I got into this field of consulting. Then got into coaching, and yeah, that's how the journey has been.
Wow, right, amazing. And like you explore so many different things, and that's where you figure out that I think I'm good at it, and that's where let's go and make it possible. And great to know that you are
That's
also,
correct. That's correct. Yeah.
yeah, like you also interest in music. You're
Oh yeah.
That's amazing, yeah. So you are helping business owners to grow their business using their influence as well. So
Right.
What is your definition of influence, and can you explain like how you help them, like business owners, to grow their business with influence? Is it related to same as influencer marketing as on Instagram, or kind of influencer things, or how it works?
No, so when I talk about influence,
Hmm.
it's slightly different in the context. Even the definition that you're going to be asking me, I don't know if it'll match, but when I say help business owners with influence, here's my take on it. When there's a business owner, for example, let's say if there is a plumber, let's take for a minute a plumber,
Yeah.
uh, or a carpenter for that matter. You look at a carpenter and you see a person and you're like, okay, this is a carpenter, right? Why? By the clothes that they wear, the clothes that they wear. You look at a fireman and you know that this is a fireman, right?
Yeah.
You look at an IT professional. At least in Bangalore, you go around the roads and you'll be like, okay, this guy is in IT, this guy is in IT, this guy is in IT, this guy is not in IT. So you're somewhere able to match the character to their profession, and that's how identities get created, right? So but what happens as a business owner? So I specifically work with service providers, coaches, consultants. These are the people that I work with. Now let's take the example of a coach. Now I call myself a peak performance coach, and
Hmm.
if my title peak performance coach does not match the way I present myself, does not match the way I speak, it doesn't match the way I deliver, it doesn't match the way I show up in this world, then the name versus the tag, the name versus my performance, there is a mismatch. So that creates, if you ask me, there is an imbalance there. And because of that, a lot of people don't get sales. So when I say influence, first, for me, the first objective of influence is to match your name to your personality.
Wow.
That's the first aspect, because if that doesn't happen, it's like you are claiming to be a BMW, but you look like a Maruti.
Hmm.
Nothing against the BMW or a Maruti. If you say you're a Maruti and if you look like a Maruti, that's fantastic. I'm not even here. I'm not even trying to compare that BMW is a better car and Maruti is not a good car. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying both are two different cars. I- If you say you're a Mercedes and if you have a BMW logo, I think now that becomes an equal comparison. If you say you're a Mercedes and you have a BMW logo, there's a mismatch and people are like, okay, what is this? Right? So that the first objective is to match stuff, and
Yeah.
the second aspect of influence comes down to, if you have something to sell, if you have something, if you have something that you genuinely believe can change somebody's life and can help somebody out, you have to bring in your 100% to create a sense of confidence in your customer's mind that he or she is the right person to help me. For example, if Nilesh has something to offer, you as Nilesh has to go with a state of conviction in yourself, in your
Right.
product, in your identity, so that your customer can get a sense of confidence that Nilesh is the right person to help me. What is selling essentially? Selling is a transfer of confidence. The
Yeah.
confidence has to go from Nilesh to his customer that I can sell and I can make this happen. So when I talk about influence, it's more in those lines as opposed to influencer marketing or being seen as an influencer. Yeah.
Loved it. Love the perspective. And when you specifically point out the second pointer, like it's all about conviction. It's all
Right,
about
right.
having the guts to said that yes, I am the best with this one thing, and I can give you the result. That's
And that's
where.
exactly what I'm trying to say. That's a beautiful point. Here, where you say, I'm good at this and I'm not good at this.
Yes.
So that kind of conviction comes when you are stating facts.
Hmm.
I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. I'm good at this is a fact, I'm not good at this is also a fact. But what happens when most people are trying to sell is they go away from facts and they try to put out things which is not essentially 100% true. And that's where they lose conviction. That's where the clients don't see that confidence, and that's where they don't buy.
Sometime something will happen that suppose X person is super expert in his or her niche, right? In his or her topic, but still he don't have the capacity or capability to convince that this is what I am good at. So is there any specific reason have you come across, like why they are not confident with when it comes to, even they are doing some things for suppose 5 years, and still when they are come in front of prospect or client, they are not able to deliver the best, they are not able to convince their value. So was there any specific point out have you figured out while the journey?
There could be a few reasons. One of the reasons that's coming to the top of my mind when you ask me this question is, let's say you as an expert, while you're growing, you started at zero. At zero, you were able to see a few people who are at a five. and you saw them to be experts. You're at a 0, you see somebody at a 5, you see them to be experts, right? Now, when you go to a 5, you see people at a 10 and you see them to be experts. Now, when you're at a 10, you see people at 15, 15, 20, and that keeps going on. So, what happens is at every point, wherever you are, because you see people who are above you, you somewhere feel inferior and you somewhere feel like I don't bring in enough value in comparison to a person at 15. Let's say you're at a 10, you're seeing a person at 15, you feel like I don't bring in enough value in comparison to a person at a 15. Here's what you forget: if your client is at a 5, you are better off, you are a better option for your client as opposed to a 15, because you are able to relate to this person at a 5 because you just crossed that, as opposed to a 15 or a 20 or a 25, because there are people at 100 also, right? But a person at a 5, as much as 100, a person at 100 can offer insane amount of value. A person at a 5 is not going to be able to connect to a person at 100. So anytime people don't see that they are not able to bring in value to their customers, irrespective of their expertise, they fail to sell because they are not clear about the value. And one of the primary reasons about their underconfidence is because there is a person above them, and that's a fact. And this is somewhere I felt earlier that when I'm here, I'll feel good. Like, no, when I'm here, I'll feel good. No, when I'm here, I'll feel good. I feel okay. When I get to this point, I'll feel good. Here, even at this point, so many people who know so much more than me. And at this point, somewhere I've managed to understand that there are people definitely way better than me, way so many things to learn from, and I continue to learn from them. All the while knowing that there are people who are trying to walk the journey that I've walked, and I'm very clearly able to communicate my value to those people, clearly stating that this is what I can do, this is what I cannot do. And that part, that perspective is something that people miss, that there are people above them for sure, but there are people who are much below as well, who are looking for exactly what they have to offer.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Amazing. Thank you for sharing this insight. And now you are also a high ticket coach, like you are a startup coach. So,
Not a startup coach, though. I don't know where you picked that up from.
okay. Uh, so, like high ticket coach, so it's a kind of a fancy term in today's scenario, in today's world, like become a high
Right,
ticket coach, become a high ticket
right,
coach.
right.
So, the point is, being a high ticket coach, what is the specific pointers or value system you are teaching to your clients that is actually giving them a mindset of becoming a high ticket person?
That's a good point. And in fact, I've been, I've shifted my, we used that high ticket, this one for a very brief period of time. And now the
Yeah.
market is flooded with it. We
Mhm.
started it in 2022 when people are not talking about it so much, but now everybody's a high ticket expert. So we're like, okay, we're going to remove that name.
Right.
So, but the concept is we still talk about the concepts of high ticket. And
Hmm.
a lot of people think that high ticket is equal to high price.
Hmm.
And that's the first thing that I try to get them to understand. High ticket is not high price, high ticket is high value. Right. And now the question comes down to value is a overused, abused term. Everybody says give more value, give more value. But what the hell is value? Right.
Hmm.
Value is anything that the client wants, and ultimately whatever your client wants. Now I'm talking purely in coaching and consulting perspective. Whatever a client wants is results.
Hmm.
So if you are a high ticket, if you're charging high ticket in your business, you have to ensure that your products or service goes towards delivering results as opposed to delivering knowledge.
Right.
Right. So if you go towards high tickets, it somewhere comes, goes from do it yourself would fall under the low ticket or the mid ticket category. Done with you and done for you would come under the high ticket services, if you ask me. Now, done for you is more agency approach. But if you're a coach and if you want to be in the high ticket space, you have to be very clear about the end result or the transformation that you're going to create for a customer. You're going to take them from point A to point B, and you're going to support them in that journey. And that transformation is what people pay for. People don't pay for a product anymore. You're not teaching them a subject. You're not teaching them Facebook advertising. You're not teaching them how to sell, but you're teaching them how to transform their business from their current state to their desired state. That transformation commands a good price because you're shortcutting their journey. If their journey usually takes, let's say, 3 years, and if you're able to bring that journey in a span of 8 to 10 months or 1 year, that demands that 2 years of time that you're saving them, that demands a price, right? So that is where you go from high price to high value. And now high value, when people see high value, that's when they're able to, that's when they're consciously thinking about, does this price make sense or not? Yeah. So the first mindset shift is if you want to get into the space of charging higher, you need to get into the space of result creation as opposed to information delivery. point one. Second thing is you have to see how you're going to support the client through this entire transformative journey, and you have to very clearly state the transformation, their current state and their desired state. How are they going to get from their current state to their desired state? What is the kind of resource they're going to get? What is the kind of support they're going to get? What is the kind of feedback they're going to get across this entire journey?
Loved it. Loved it. Definitely. And the level of help or support you can give to your client, that's where they can generate a result, and you are getting a word of mouth more in the
That's true.
industry,
That's true. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's powerful. And now, just you mentioned before, like you are a peak performance coach. So again, I want to understand, like, what is the peak performance, and how somebody can implement this system, a peak performance coach, in their life or their business.
So now, first, let's understand what is going to your first question, what peak performance is.
Peak performance.
Everybody has 24 hours a day, right? And somewhere I'm of I'm of a very strong belief. I have this very strong belief, and I think there's data backing this up as well. I can't pull it out right now, so I'm not going to say it's backed up by data, but I've read this somewhere too. That people do not work efficiently for over an hour a day, which is crazy for me. If somebody does not work for over an hour a day, and they're expecting the kind of results they want, their dreams that they have, the cars, the bungalows, the vacations, everything that they want, but people don't work for an hour a day, which is true. Now, first part of performance is understanding how much time you're spending into the work that you're doing. And when we say time, it's about the amount of hours which is completely focused on doing one particular thing. For example, now if I'm doing a podcast with you, and if I'm parallelly texting somebody, if I'm parallelly rushing into the next session, now this podcast, it's going to be for maybe 30, 40, 45 minutes, but I blocked a good 90 minutes for this because I don't want to rush into the session. Knowing, because I know that if I just have 45 minutes blocked in for the 45-minute session, I'm always going to be thinking of the next task that's at hand. Right. So I'm going to be thinking of what am I going to do next. So if it's 30 minutes, I'm going to be like, okay, my client is going to call me in the next 15 minutes. What do I do? So what happens is I'm disconnected. So even though I'm working for 90 minutes, I'm disconnected in the conversation, and that does not bring the A game on. Right. So one is the time that you spend, but the question comes down to how focused you are in the time that you spend, point two. And the third one comes down to, in that 1 hour, let's say you just spend 1 hour, how do you get work that's equivalent to 4-5 hours? Where you get into extreme deep focus states, extreme flow states. And how do you get so much more work done in the same amount of time? And now that is just not a factor of spending time or focus. If you ask me, that's a factor of your physiology, that's a factor of your body, that's a factor of your mental state, that's a factor of clarity, knowing what you're doing, that's a factor of decluttering and not having random thoughts in your mind, that's a factor of knowing exactly what you have planned in your day. It's a factor of a lot of things. It's a factor of your mind, it's a factor of your body, it's a factor of your schedule, it's a factor of the work that you're doing, it's a factor of passion, it's a factor of motivation, it's a factor of what influences you, it's a factor of your environment. So aligning all of these factors to make sure that 1 hour is equivalent to 5, 6, or 10 hours, that's the game that I try to play.
Wow, that's crazy. The 1 hour of game is something. In 1 hour, I'm putting effort of 5-6 hours, and it requires the focus. And
Yeah.
still, in as a human, we have a lot of different thoughts in our mind.
Right.
ये कर लेता हूँ, you understand Hindi, right? ये कर लेता
Yeah,
हूँ,
of
वो कर
course.
लेता हूँ. I
Right.
try to do everything. So the point is how we can be that much focused enough that in 1 hour I can put the effort of 4 to 5 hours. Because it's like a distraction world, we can say. Like, okay, I can scroll to my Instagram reel. Somebody is message me on the messenger or WhatsApp on. So how we can develop that kind of focus, so we can put the deep work.
Right. So that's the thing, right? So that's what I help people with primarily. But if I have to just quickly summarize based on your question, uh, it's first about looking at what are the elements that is distracting. Now, when a lot of people think of distraction, the first thought that comes to their mind is social media. But I think Nir in his book Indistractable, it's somewhere here in the behind. Oh yeah, it's there. In his book Indistractable, he says that it's not a distraction until and unless you know what it is distracting you from. A lot of people say I'm distracted by social media or I'm distracted by my phone, But think about this for a minute, Nilesh. I'm sure you've had days where you didn't touch your phone, or hours where you didn't touch your phone, where you were extremely focused on your work. I'm sure you've had those days, yes or no?
True.
And there are days where you just kept scrolling on social media and you're like, shit, aaj pura din khatam,
Mm.
right? So on the days you did not touch your phone, you knew exactly what you wanted to do. You knew exactly why you were doing it. You knew what was the outcome of it. You knew what were the consequences of it.
Yeah.
So you knew that if you pick up the phone, that it's taking you away from the reward or it's taking you towards the consequence of not doing it. But on the days you were just endlessly scrolling on social media, you didn't have an intention. You didn't know what you were working towards. You just said that I want to get some work done today. That's perhaps even if you planned it, that's how your calendar looked like. I want to get some work done today without defining what that work is. When you define, if you don't define what that work is, you don't know what is the cost of not doing it, or you don't know what is the reward of doing it. When such situations exist in a very, in very simple terms, when such situation exists, then you are very easily distracted because you don't even know what is happening, right? You don't even know what is it that you're aspiring towards. So to put yourself in peak performance states, you need to create the right environment. For example, if I am going to be in a flow state, if I'm going to go into deep work, my primary criteria becomes that my phone is parked in the other room. My primary criteria becomes that I go into D&D mode. So I get all calls get disconnected on a single ring, right? So all of these features are there in everybody's phones. It's about you consciously taking these steps in order to put yourself in the right environment where nobody can disturb you. So external triggers are taken away. Now, this next one comes to internal triggers of boredom, internal triggers of stress, internal triggers of anxiety, internal triggers of shit, I'm stuck. Most of these times, these are the points where you open your phone, open your social media. Now, external triggers are parked outside. Now, you're sitting with internal triggers. You need to first identify what your internal triggers are, and then sequentially learn how to manage each of these internal triggers. Right? Identify the actions that you take towards each of these internal triggers and then slowly start eliminating each one of them before you know it, I think you put yourself in pretty powerful states that you can really do a lot of stuff in.
Yes, true. And sometimes I also do, not 100 all the time, but sometimes I put my phone in another room, and then when I put my effort in my work, in my whatever things I'm doing, I'm getting a great result. So that's the
Yeah,
really
so I have
powerful
work
part.
slots. I have work slots. Like for example, if I have to take today's work slot, today the first work slot was from 7 to 10 in the morning. Now, then 10 is where I sat for breakfast. 11 I knew this, so 11 to 1:30 I've not blocked anything here. 1:30 to 3 is my 1:30 to 4 is my next work slot. 5 to 7 is the next work slot for the day. And today, since I'm not keeping well, don't have my tennis sessions. I don't have my workout sessions. But otherwise, everything is very clearly mapped out in the calendar. And any work session, my phone is always on D&D. You cannot reach out to me no matter what happens. There are only two contacts that are off D&D. And those two contacts, they know that this is my schedule and they only call me during emergencies. And they know that that's when I want to be there for them, right? So, yeah.
Loved it, loved it. So I know your journey, and there was a time in your journey when you have a very hard time to buy a breakfast for yourself, for your
Yeah.
family. So, coming from that situation to here, what was the one biggest learning you had in your life, and how did you work in that time when you are in very down phase in your life? How did you motivate yourself in that time when you are in down
I
phase
feel
of life?
I feel that's a fairly easy question to answer for me. I'll answer that. But I feel since you asked what is a big lesson, the big lesson for me did not come so much in that time. The big lesson for me came in after I started making good money. And the lesson for me was don't get complacent. Because when I started making good amount of money, I became very easygoing in life. And I'm just talking about recent times, recent times I became very easygoing in life, and that backfires. It's not a good place to be in. So that a very important lesson didn't come in there so much, but maybe I'm sure lessons were there back then also. But I'm talking about like the most important factor or a lesson for me at this point has been don't become complacent. Don't always have a vision to aspire towards, always have a vision to go to the next level. Because for me at that point, when you don't have money to buy breakfast, your immediate goal is just survival, and anything above that, it's like cherry on the cake. And for me, after a point, there were just cherries. I'm like, fuck, this is life, this is nice, right? And at that point, i I experienced that a good amount of that for a good amount of time, post which I got complacent. So I used to do sessions every week. I went from every week to twice a week, not twice a week. So every week to twice a month, right? Then from twice a month to once a month. So started becoming more and more and more and more complacent. And here's the thing: the question comes down to, are you going to be working for the rest of your life? The answer is no. But what happens is when you prioritize freedom way too much, because we've been sold this thought of freedom too much, if you ask me. And when you prioritize freedom way too much, I somewhere kept feeling that if I'm doing this amount of work, where is my freedom? So that's why I started cutting down work without thinking of building it as a business, without realizing that when I cut down on work, I'm actually saying goodbye to money as well, right? So I didn't think that, okay, I need to cut down on work by putting in systems. That's not how I thought. Now I think of it that way, but then I didn't think of it that way. I cut down on hours, thinking I need more freedom. So I started cutting down on stuff, and then that was a very important lesson. Now coming back to your point on how did I get through that point, uh, honest answer is I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything to look forward to. I didn't have anything to vouch for. I didn't have anything to support me, and all my friends were on the next level. Somewhere I felt horrible in life, and the I think the very strong need to get out of that. There's a point beyond which you can no longer take it, and one of the two things can happen: either you crash when you no longer can take it, or the other thing that happens is bounce. Luckily for me, the other thing that happened was I bounced up. I didn't crash, because, and when I say luckily, one factor is, yeah, one factor is the fact that I've gone through so much pain before that, actual physical pain before that I had references in my mind of what I've gone through. So I had a point of reference saying, okay, Swastik, if you can survive that, you can survive this. So there was a point of reference in my life for sure. But then I really, really wanted to get out of that situation really bad. And that's the primary reason. When you have such a strong drive where things kept failing, I kept pushing. I felt like shit. I kept pushing. But one more important factor through the entire journey, which I forgot to mention, is my partner Ramya. If she was not there in the journey, honest to God, this would not have happened today. It does not happen. So a lot of people, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that I'm the co-founder of it, of the company, because I'm not, I'm on the interviews, I'm on the ads, I'm on the sessions, I'm the face of the brand. But what happens is, one person that people don't see is Ramya. She is the backbone of the entire system. She drives the entire game, and yeah, she's one of the primary reasons to for me to get to the other level. So yeah, if I have to talk about lucky, finding her and being there in my life, that's a very lucky factor for me. Yeah.
Lovely. That's lovely. Amazing. So you helped around 12, more than 12,000 business owners. Definitely you see lots of challenges in their businesses.
Mhm.
What is the one common challenge you figure out and you find, or even three if we can go for, is you find out, and what was that three challenges
Uh,
common?
I'm not going to go with the priority or the order of it.
Mhm. Yes,
All
yes,
of them
yes.
are equally important. I would say. I wouldn't say the first and the most important one. No. One of the things that I see is the business owners lack focus on what brings in money and what takes money. So they equate all activities, not realizing that not all activities are equal. And a lot of people tell me, Swastik, I work for 5 hours a day, 10 hours a day. And the question comes down to, what are you working on for those 5 hours a day? That makes a lot of difference. So, not clearly establishing money making activities and non money making activities in their business. I call them MMAs, money making activities. That's one of the first reasons, one of the main reasons why uh, businesses don't go to the level that they have to go to. Point one. Point two, I would say, is that when they when they are not good at something, when they're not good at something, they look to outsource it, which is a good trait to have for sure. I'm not denying that at all. It's a great trait to have. But having no knowledge about that itself, for example, if I have to outsource Facebook advertising, and if I have zero knowledge about Facebook advertising, whatever the advertiser tells me becomes the truth of my life, right? And that becomes a very big challenge. So whenever you outsource something, you having zero knowledge and making that person the prime focus of that part of your business, now what happens is this person is holding you by the collar, and this person is running your business. And that I see this happening especially with marketing and advertising. A lot of people tell me, Swastik, my advertisers are this, my marketing team is this, now my marketing team is that. Now the thing is, it's like you are hiring a driver, but if you don't tell the driver where to go, this driver will go wherever, right? You still have to be the guiding force that's giving a destination or a direction, and you should know what is the direction that you should take these people on. So the people that you hire, you need to know that. And the third very, very, very important thing, yes, so I'm going to tell, I initially told that it's not the most important thing, but yeah, I think this is the most important thing, is managing their emotions. Managing their emotions. Uh, People don't realize that most of their life, almost all decisions that they take is run by emotions. Now, if these emotions are being managed by you, fantastic. If these emotions are randomly popping up and decisions are randomly happening, that's where the challenge is. Everything. The reason you start a business is because you get excited. The reason you stop ads is because you have fear. The reason you hire somebody is because you have some dream or it makes you hopeful. The reason you fire somebody is because it pisses you off. So every action that you take is an emotion. And if you ask me, the your emotions are a connection between your mind and body. Emotions are the bridge between your mind and body, which means the actions that if your body takes action and your mind creates that thought, the feeling is the bridge between the thought and the action. And managing your emotions becomes one of the prime activity or the prime aspect of a business owner. And if they're not able to do that efficiently, then the whole game goes for a toss. Irrespective of what strategies you have in life, you might have the best strategies crafted by the best consultants, by the best experts and mentors in the world. If you're not able to consciously manage your emotions, everything goes out of the window. So yeah, three things.
So when it comes to, like, I got two more questions. Like,
Yeah,
first,
please.
money making activity. So can you
Mhm.
give pointers of what kind of money making activities that you focusing on? And second one is how we can control our emotion, like just by doing meditation, or is there any other ways to control the emotions?
So for the coming to your first, in fact, let's
Yeah.
do the second question first because it's in
Yeah.
context to what you're speaking right
Hmm.
now. How do you control your emotions? Now, I don't know if you can control your emotions, but you can manage your emotions. So, because see, here's the thing. Now, let's say Nilesh, if I come and start yelling at you right now, we are in the middle of the podcast, you're recording this, and now let's assume I start abusing you. You have no control over what I do, right? You have no control. The most you can do is you can shut the show. And if now people are not watching this live, people are going to be watching this later. What you can do is you can edit those parts or not put up this podcast. So many things can happen later. But right now, you have no control over what I say. I can still go ahead and go crazy on you. So trying to control emotion somewhere becomes futile because you will have to control a lot of elements in your life, which you cannot. Which you cannot. You have no control over the external situations in your life, right? Now, but managing your emotions would be, like I said, you can either choose to mute me, you can either choose to stop me, you can either choose to cut the call. So all of this becomes ways of management, right? Now, how do you do this? How do you do this is between when a thought occurs or when an event occurs to your response, if you are able to pause, if you're able to pause, that's where you are able to respond as opposed to react. That pause is the time that you take to manage and say, okay, this is how I'm going to do stuff, right? One part is the pause, but that's one. Since you asked how, what are the different ways? One is to pause, and this pause is what comes by silencing yourself, by looking at your thoughts, by meditating, by being more mindful. You're able to expand on the pause, and the larger the pause, you're able to better manage your emotions. Point one. Point two would be on a daily basis you experience emotions. Let's say as a consultant, as a coach, as an online business owner, the minute Facebook starts going crazy, your emotions go crazy. Along with the CPL, along with the CPA, even your emotions are going up and down exactly like that. Right? So knowing the trigger points, like how we discussed about distraction, knowing the points of trigger. And it's not very difficult to find out the point of triggers. If you just look at your day, everybody who's listening to this, if you just take a minute, if you pause the video right now, and if you just look at your day and look at the emotions that you've had, you'll be able to very clearly identify what triggered that emotion, both good and bad. I'm not just talking about bad emotions, I'm talking about good emotions as well. You'll be very clearly able to identify, okay, this is what made me feel good, this is what made me feel bad. And if I ask you to go back to yesterday, you'll see that a lot of things that happened yesterday also happened today. So a lot of emotions that happened yesterday also happened today. So a lot of these emotions that you keep experiencing over and over again, it's very easy for you to notice if you take some time to notice it. So the first factor is to become aware of what triggers your emotions. And once you become aware of it, you consciously creating circumstances or situations to mitigate that emotion that you're not happy with or enhance the emotion that you're happy with. That's where you design your life in a way that you experience the emotions that you want to experience. And Tony Robbins says this beautiful thing. He says that all of us are so focused on the house that we buy or the house that we live in decorating the house, but you forget your most important one place that you live in for most of your life is inside here. So your emotional home is one place that you need to beautify, if anything. So if you spend a lot of time cleaning your house, spend some time cleaning your emotional home as well, because that you spend more time there than anything else. So it's all a factor of spending some time realizing what triggers you, what does not trigger you, what makes you happy, enhancing that, and what triggers you makes you unhappy, mitigating that. Yeah.
It's really great thing you point out, and specifically the Tony Robbins example is like cleaning our house on daily basis, but cleaning our mind, cleaning our thoughts is also like I have one-to-one performance coach. Also teach me this one thing only: ki pull out all the garbage from your mind, remove all the garbage from your mind. Otherwise, it smell like crazy. That's really
Oh
amazing.
yeah,
Thank you.
it is. It is. And
Thank you
now
for
coming to your
pointing.
first question, in
Yeah.
coming to your first question that you had, what are the money making activities in your business? Right. Now, the money making activities in a business would be very clearly, very easily simplified. It's a no-brainer. Anything that brings money would be a money making activity. Anything that takes away money is a non-money making activity. Now, here's the thing. You bringing in money, sales. Now when I give this definition, sales on the forefront becomes a money making activity. And if you are also going to have this argument that in this definition, Swastik, marketing becomes a non-money making activity, right? So let me clarify that also a little. Sale, anything in the context of sales and marketing, anything in the context of sales and marketing, I want you to classify that into one aspect and look at that as money making activity. But one more money taking activity that a lot of people continuously indulge in without optimizing it and systemizing it is operations. People assume that once they sell, it's done. No, once they sell something, that's where they have to spend money to make sure that the customer is happy and fulfilled. And that's where operations come in, and that takes money. That takes a lot of money for you to do it right. Right. Initially, at least, it's going to take you a lot of money, and then the objective is to make sure that the cost that you spend on operations, you bring it down without mitigating the quality of your delivery. Right. So anything to do with sales and marketing, and anything to do for me in my context, me growing my skill set, me growing my intellect, me growing my knowledge base, all that also I would consider a money making activity, although I've not been able to directly correlate an ROI on it. I can't say that I read a book and I'm going to make 10 times what I bought paid for that book, even though I can't do that math. I don't know if anybody has been able to do that. But for me, reading and studying, learning is a money making activity. If, again, there is a very big if to it, if I'm acting on what I've read. Otherwise, reading, learning, and any form of knowledge consumption, if you ask me, is a drug, which becomes an addiction in your life. You just keep feeling good and good and good that you're reading, learning, and something new is coming up in your life. It just becomes a factor of novelty, and if anything, it just takes away money. So reading, learning, and knowledge is a money making activity if you are taking action. Otherwise, it's a non-money making activity. So yeah, sales, marketing, and learning if you're taking action. And the non-money making activities are the 100 other things that you do in business. Now, it's definitely important for you to do them, provided you know that you are able to balance these two things out. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you for giving this perspective. And definitely, uh, just learning does not give you the end result, you have to implement this thing at the same time. Otherwise, just a good body I got from you, like learning is becoming a drug, addictive addiction.
Yeah, it is. It's a drug. It's a drug.
That's
I
amazing.
have personally experienced it. That's how I know it.
Yes. So, right now you are already having everything, like you are successful in your business. Are you feeling low in sometimes, even after having all the achievements that you have? Are you feeling low at some point of
For
time?
sure, that's I think one of the first things that I told you, the lessons part. I've learned more after growth happened as opposed to before that happened, and that's where I became complacent. And on a daily basis, I wouldn't feel all that good. I'm like, why am I not feeling good? I didn't ask my so the question of why am I not feeling good didn't come in, at that point. After a few days, it came in. Why am I not feeling good? And then I realized I had lost interest. I realized that I didn't feel like doing what I was doing. I realized that I didn't feel good about myself. Again, the comparison started that, okay, now I'm at, let's say, 15. What about people at 20? What about when do I get to 25? What if I never get to 30? That's a factor that happens. And the thing is, I've asked a lot of people at different levels, and one realization that I've had is they also feel that way. And somewhere it's a validation that you're a human being, and knowing that you are going to experience these things, and that doesn't change. It doesn't change when, at least at this stage, I can tell you that at the stage that I'm in, it's about 1% of what I imagine. And everybody's case is that, even a person that you see as 100, you go ask them this person, they'll be like, I'm at 5 or 10% of what I want to do in life. uh, I feel that there's so much more to do. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get to where I want to get to. I don't know if half my dreams are going to remain dreams. I felt that in 2019. I felt that in 2020. Felt that in 21. Felt that in 22. I continue to feel that in 23. But one thing that I've learned to do is be more present. Uh, Look at what I want at this point. Work towards it. And when I'm working towards it, go all into working towards it. And I've started feeling good about the work that I do. I started feeling good about the boring work that I do. I started having fun with the boring work that I do, which has been nice. And so these shifts have helped me a lot at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, having fun with what we do is something very interesting, because sometimes doing the same thing again and again, like I'm doing workshops, I'm doing interviews, sometimes we feel like to be bored, like I am doing this always all the time. But
Yeah, yeah,
when we put the fun in the stuff, like I'm enjoying what I am doing, I love what I am
yeah.
doing, that's where we are winning the game. I love this
Yeah, and
attitude.
becoming more intentional. Like, today when I opened my calendar, it said there's a podcast with Nilesh. And I went into the description. I do this every morning where I set intentions for the thing, and it's there in my calendar. I've written two words. What are the intentions for the podcast? Two words. One is be honest. Second one is have fun. So these are the two words that I've written. And when it comes in, now I know that, okay, I'm entering this conversation. I have to enter this with honesty. If I don't know something, I don't know something. If I know something, I'm going to say what I know. And the second one is have fun because, well, you're going to meet a new person and you're going to spend 45 minutes with him. Have fun.
And I hope you had a fun from last 42
Oh, I
minutes.
had a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. So we are about to end this session, and before we ending, what is the thing that you like out of the business, not in the business? Any like still in the music or practice the music or something else?
I want to get back to music because Ramya, she's my partner. She's a partner in business. She's a partner in life. She's a playback singer. She sings for movies, and she's a musician. And looking at her, there are times where I have this FOMO of wanting to get back into music, which I might consider in, like, in the next few months. But right now, one thing that I love, absolutely love, is watching movies. And I love watching movies. A lot of people ask me, Swastik, what is the most educational movies, or what are the most valuable movies that you've seen that has changed your life? Honestly, I don't watch movies to change my life. I watch movies because I love watching movies. Ramya and I pretty much watch every movie in the theater. When we say every movie, we mean almost every movie. So if Book My Show shows a rating of 8 or above, and it's in the genre that we like, we watch it, and we watch it only in the theaters. I can never watch a movie on the TV or the computer anywhere else. I can only watch movies in theaters. But I love watching movies. Yeah, day for yesterday, I went and watched Three Idiots. The day before that, I went and watched Munna Bhai, both in the theaters because it re-released in Bangalore, and I love doing that. Yeah.
And any favorite movie of yours?
I love Three Idiots. I love Three Idiots. I just love that movie. It's something since you asked on the top of my head, I watched it day before yesterday. So
Loved it. Yeah, actually, I watched Three Idiots. Everybody was like, everybody is a fan of Three Idiots, and we got a lot of ideas कि मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ life में. All is well. Awesome.
yeah. More. I think that somewhere I don't know. Maybe it's also had an influence in my life also, for all you know, because it came in 2009, I guess. 2009, and a lot of things have different since 2009 to today in my life. So I'm sure that has had a lot of impact, considering how many times I've watched the movie, and considering I get emotional every time I watch the movie. So yeah.
Loved it. I think I can also rewatch after you, as you mentioned. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Swastik, for being here and sharing a lot of insights, nuggets from your life, from the journey that you explore in this last 7 8 years. Thank you so much once again for sharing a lot of insights. And everybody, I hope you got a lot of insights, nuggets. So Swastik, if people wants to connect with you, where they can find you?
My Instagram, Swastik Nandkumar. That's the
Okay.
place that they can find me. Yeah, that's where I love. That's where I'm actually a little more available than other platforms. I actually respond to a lot of messages myself. So on my Instagram. But before all of that, I'd like to point out to Nilesh for doing such a phenomenal job. So all of you who are considering what you want to do in life, be more like Nilesh. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, brother. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you for that. So thanks
Love the
a lot.
persistence. Honestly, I really honestly love the persistence and the because here's the thing, Nilesh, for me to be here today, Nilesh has been very persistent in following up with my team, in following up with me, in being connected over email, in being connected over Instagram, and we've after the first set of follow up, we booked a slot, and that slot did not happen because I had a family emergency. Then he again made sure that he re-followed up, restructured, rebooked the call to a point where my team was behind my life saying, Swastik, I have to respond to Nilesh. It's not nice. And then they got a date out of me. And then Nilesh followed up again on Instagram, again today morning, again yesterday, again today morning. And so even though I was not keeping well today, I just didn't feel like canceling the session merely because of the amount of efforts that he's put into making something like this happen. And he's done this to such phenomenal entrepreneurs, and all of them are in his show. And the reason that I said be more like Nilesh is not a joke. What I mean is, if you really want to be successful in life, the perseverance, the persistence, and the quality of you believing in what you stand for and not thinking about what will this other person think. Nilesh didn't so much care of his image in front of me or anybody else for that matter. He just persistently followed up because he has a message to bring out to the world, and he wants to make sure that he brings in the right set of people to bring in that message, and he's going to do whatever it takes to bring that message in. That quality is absolutely gold. And Nilesh, that's going to take you to the next level, man. Looking, pretty cool. Good stuff.
Really appreciate you for your kind words. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Because the one point is a bit I can say that the one point is I want to give more as I know, and how I can give more by bringing expert like you. So that's the point, and I'm doing this. Thank you so much, but from the bottom of my heart for being here, and thank you so much everybody for watching and listening, and share your one big takeaway. And as in the interview we discussed, don't just learn, implement what you learn. So mention what is the one action you are going to take from this one interview, what is the one step you are going to take that can help you to move to the next step in your journey. So till then, bye bye, have a great day, thanks a lot.